So I'm going to hand it off to Scott, who will be asking Miss Sandra a series of questions.
Thank you. Tonight we have Sandra with us, and fortunately for us, Sandra is a lifelong Yorker, although she's made a couple pit stops along the way. She's the author of 480 Codorus Street, Book 1, Surviving Unpredictability, 480 Codorus Street, Book 2, Trials and Tribulations, 480 Codorus Street, Book 3, Endurance, and another book, There Is Always Room for One More. Her hope is to influence her readers to participate in their own success story. Sandra is interactive on many social media platforms and is listed on many search engines, including Google. The book we will discuss tonight, 480 Codorus Street, Book 1, Surviving Unpredictability, speaks to the racial unrest of the 1970s and the 1980s, as well as blending a stepfather into her life and the life of her children. Her message evokes pleasant and unpleasant memories that you will feel in her words. Welcome, Miss Sandra.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'd like to start right at the very beginning. You choose to open your book with a short poem entitled Abundant Living. I'm going to read it. It's very brief. Think deeply, speak gently, laugh often, work hard, give freely, pay promptly, pray earnestly, be kind always. Why did you choose those words to begin this book?
I think I chose them words because it tells you my life. It tells you how I felt about my life and how things were for me. People always say that part about abundant living. I put that like just examples. When I was like really young in my 20s, me and my husband and our children, we lived on Andrews Air Force Base. And we were really poor, you know. They didn't have food stamps out at that time yet. And like I always tell people, we lived on base and base housing, but I always tell people it's a step up from the projects. It's still government, you know, and on bases, you know, enlisted or separated from officers, it's kind of like, it's a step up. But what I found in there, even though we didn't have a lot of money, I had to figure out how I could get my children to understand that they were doing well and that they had just as much as the next kid, you know, in their block. So when Disney opened, I can't remember exactly what year that was, 70, whatever. And Disney opened and we saw the advertisement of Disney World. I thought, oh, we'd never go to Disney World. And my kids said, Mom, you know, somebody's friend went to Disney World, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I said, I'm telling Aaron, we cannot afford that in Florida. And then I started thinking about it. I overthink things. That's what I do, overthink things. And then food stamps came about. I said, oh, wow, this is really cool. And I applied for them for us, and they turned us down. They said my husband made too much money. Mind you, enlisted, living on base, in base housing. I wasn't working in school, and we made too much money. Well, being that I'm that person who likes to not take no for an answer, I challenged them and appealed it, and I won. So when I won, because the case took a long time, when I won, they sent me all the food stamps. I'm talking about like $2,000 or something like that. We thought we were damn rich with all these food stamps, you know. I'm like, what? So I said, you know what? We can do this trip to Disney. And we had a station wagon that we bought. We paid $350 a Chevy. And my husband said, there's no way that Chevy can make it to Florida. How do you know? My dad says Chevy's a good car. They last forever, you know. So we ended up going to Disney in that Chevy and with our food stamps and packed our food for the road, sandwiches and sodas and chips and snacks. And we did that 14 hours and we stayed in Holiday Inn, one-room hotel. So we had a sofa bed in there and a bedroom with 2 beds in for the kids to share, right? So we went there and we had money we saved up for them to get in the park too. So the first day we got to the park, you know, we gave all the kids money, but we knew the amount of money to get in. Today it's $100 and something, but back then it was like 30 something dollars, which to us was like 100 and something. So we're at the gate and Aaron's buying the tickets and he only wants to pay for me and him and 3 of the kids. And Keenan, our youngest, was actually 5, but you had to, if you weren't 5, you didn't pay. And then he didn't buy one more ticket for him. Dad, I'm 5, remember? In front of the gate. And he said, Yeah. So we get in the gate and everything. Now my son's crying. He said, Mom, you are 5. And your dad lied. He lied. That wasn't true. You are 5. But he lied because he didn't have enough money for everybody to get into the park. And then he was crying. He felt better then. I always remembered, I said, oh my God, Aaron, you had enough, you could have paid. But when we came back, the kids thought they were just like in heaven. We had stickers all over our little Chevy station wagon that made it there and back. And all the kids on the Andrews Air Force Base now come to our house because they thought our kids were rich. They thought they were living large. So when I think about abundantly, I think of all the things I try to teach my kids, like we would go get ice cream. Back in the day, you could go get ice cream cones with food stamps, but they changed that a couple years in. So we always knew on that day, that month when it was food stamp time, we're getting, if nothing else, we're getting ice cream cone and we're going to McDonald's to get a burger and fries. And we used to always do that. And that wasn't a lot, back to then. But the kids thought it was like a lot. They thought they were rich. I gave them $1. They're going to rich. So abundantly, I tried to put in my kids' head things that they could do, that they weren't trapped. I didn't ever want them to feel like they were trapped. So when I say abundant, I gave them as much as I can, even though what I was giving them was really nothing much. But to them, it was a lot. If that makes sense. To them, it was a lot.
It absolutely makes sense. And as we talk through the book tonight, I think your belief in abundance will come through. You talk in your introduction, you said there that everything you read here is from my memory and from my perspective only. Although my siblings have experienced many of the same things that I've experienced, their perspectives might be very different. Were there any disagreements? Were there any facts that maybe had to be negotiated or reworked as you recounted these stories? And were there any, we'll say, blowback from the family as you shared some of the trials and tribulations and successes?
Well, if there was any, nobody said anything to me. And I am the second oldest of my mother's children, and I'm pretty tough. And I kind of ran things when we were young because I was next in charge. When you read my book, my dad stole my older sister Mary from my mother. So I was left with my mother with my siblings, so I was always in charge. She was with my dad, so we didn't really have that much time together at some point. So some things in the book she probably didn't like, she didn't tell me, but I could tell when we were talking, at sometimes she did. And I said, each of us see this story differently, and if you disagree with what I said, write your story. Your story will probably be correct because it's the way you understood it and the way you saw it. So all of us could write that story. I mean, when my father was so abusive when I was seeing things at 9, 10, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Well, I'm 6 years older than my youngest brother. So when we left, I was 11, he's 5. It didn't affect them the same way. But some of my sisters have some problems now, and I think it affected them then, how they let their life go. And I was the one in York, and we were all going through things. We're all teen moms. We're going through things. And then I decided for me that I needed to leave York. So my sisters weren't always happy with the choices I made. I mean, I remember my book, I talk about moving to Philly. I talked about one of my sisters coming to live with me. It didn't work out. Another sister coming with me. I was always trying to escape York, escape York. Because I thought that if I stayed where my siblings were and where my background was from and my old friends were, that I'll be in that trap too, still stuck in the projects and teaching my kids nothing more than just live in the projects. I'll grow up here, you grow up here, get your own project. I mean, you see that now, that happens now. I know people like that. I have some family like that. I have people like that. You're in the projects, now your kids are in the project. Now their kids are probably in the project. I felt you got to break that cycle somewhere. And that was not what I was going to do. Even when I wasn't on welfare, but I was kind of on welfare. I was getting Social Security pension, same thing. It's still low money. But I had enough sense to figure out how to save pennies here and there. Like my mom used to count her pennies on a piece of paper. We no calculator. Mom used to write her bills out, write everything. I used to do it in the projects, figure what I'm going to pay and how I'm going to fit in getting my kids to go to a play. McKinley Cooks, right around the corner. All the Miss Bessie Palmer's there, Miss Palmer's wife, she used to work there. She used to and the movies and the buses that kids were going on to places. She would always let me know, and I would scrape my money up and go over there and pay her, make sure my kids were on that bus, going to see a movie or a play or something, ice skating or something. You know, I always tried to get them to do a little bit more. And I talk about in my book how I was afraid of water. It's because of my dad, afraid of water. So I made sure that my kids went to the YMCA down around the corner from Codorus Street, pretty much, so they could swim, because I didn't want my kids to ever drown. So there's a lot of things, you know, that like makes my brain work like that. Right, what I see, and my sisters, mostly sisters, my brother passed, don't agree with me. Oh well, write your story. Does that mean I don't love my sisters? No, not in, I love my sisters. I mean, we can argue all day long, and you get between us, and you're going to be the enemy. So that's how close we are. They don't have to agree to everything, but they can write their story, and their story could be correct the way they see it. But I wrote it the way I saw it and the way I felt it. That's what I did. So no,
Thank you.
to answer your question, nobody bucked me. Nobody bucked me.
Thank you. So you said you tried to escape York, but you kept coming back. It kept
I
bringing you
know,
back.
I know.
And Codorus Street, your family, you left Codorus Street in June of 1959. You and the family left Codorus Street for good.
Yes,
But yet, you've written 3 books, 480 Codorus Street. That 10 years of your life has left a huge imprint on you and your family. Can you talk
yes.
about the importance of Codorus Street and talk about that imprint that it's left on you?
Well, Codorus Street was like when my mother was around, just my mother with us. Codorus Street was a godly place. It was a safe place. It was a happy place, you know. And she gave us so many memories. Like in Christmas, she decorated the whole house with blue light bulbs in every window. You know, she would make cookies. She used to get like flour used to come in big 5-gallon cans, and my mom would save those cans to bake and put her cookies in when she's cooking for holidays and things like that. She gave us so many happy memories. When it used to storm back on Codorus Street days, and back then power went out all the time. The big street lights always went out. When there's a storm, the street lights went out. My mom one day, and it was storming so bad, and my dad was away, like he's always was away most of the time. She took a flash. She came and set us in the vestibule at 40 Codorus Street, the vestibule. We could all sit there with the lightning. She went, we are now, the lightning's gonna strike us and kill us, I guess. Nobody thought about that, you know. And she'd sit there, and she gave us a flashlight, and she took a flashlight, and she'd walk down dark Codorus Street, where she could find a store to go get some snacks. And to this day, I hate Fig Newtons because that was her favorite. Fig Newtons, she always got Fig Newtons. I hate them. Fig Newtons and thick pretzels. New York always have pretzels, and peppermint patties. Well, you will probably not go into any one of my sister's houses or nieces, probably nieces, and not find pretzels. That was my mom's thing. Everybody loves pretzels. My mom always had, my sisters hide pretzels in her house. You come by and you think, you have any pretzels? No, I don't have any. They hide pretzels. They hide things like when it comes to pretzels, even our kids. So I love her patties and pretzels, but not Fig Newtons. But they were her favorite. So it would storm. It would be no street lights, and she'd have a flashlight. We thought she was the bravest thing ever. She wasn't afraid in the dark. She gave us that flashlight, said, "Don't nobody come outside. I'll be back." She'd come back with her big bag of hard pretzels and peppermint patties and her Fig Newtons. My mom would tell stories. So Codorus Street is like a safe place, a place for strength. You know, it's in my brain because it's a place for strength, thinking about just climbing out of there, you know. And when we left York, my mom was the one that came back to York because we were still kids. We didn't have babies yet. So my mom was the one thought she wanted to come back to York because that's where her foothold was. That's what she knew. That's where her friends were. Even though she was born in Lancaster in Columbia, Pennsylvania. And I write in my book at some point where I didn't know she was a foster child until I was an adult. She was a foster child in Lancaster, her and her sister and her brother. Well, she told us when we were growing up, which I don't know why she didn't never tell us, but anyway, she didn't. But she wanted to come back because she felt like, and even when we went to Lancaster from York, my mom left York, we had a big house on Codorus Street, you know, with 3 bedrooms upstairs, an attic, a living room, a dining room, a kitchen. I described that house in that book. It was just it was mom. It was a good place. We left to run away, leave my dad. Pennsylvania, Mercer Avenue. We had a house, a frame house, a 2-bedroom frame house. My mom had to squeeze her and all her kids in the house, them 2 bedrooms. My mom didn't have a bedroom. She always slept downstairs in the sofa bed. So it was like a different life for my mother, you know. And finally she started doing better. We were getting older. She thought she could move back. She could find a job, you know, and she would come back. And my mom found, you know, doing piecework, factory work, you know, York had that. That was a lot of factories. My mom didn't graduate from high school. She went to McCaskey High School in, no, not McCaskey, but I forgot the school in Lancaster. I mean, Columbia. I just can't think of the name of it right now. But she went to high school in Columbia and she dropped out in 10th grade. And I'm gonna tell you why she dropped out. And it doesn't fit here, but I gotta say it because it's on my mind. She always got picked to pass out papers in her classroom. There's only like 3 Black students in her class in Columbia. And she said the teacher always picked her to pass out the papers. So she was passing out people's grades, their papers on her desk and turn them down. And this one classmate, a white girl, knocked it on the floor. Picked it up because she knew it was going, but she said she picked it up and she did it again. And my mom said when she did it the 3rd time, just threw it on the ground. My mom said she put the papers on the teacher's desk, went to the coat room, got her coat on, and walked home. Never went back to school. So talking about racial stuff was going on a lot back then, you know. My mom probably been through a lot from that. My mom grew up just in a bad place. So I think that when she was in Lancaster, she felt like, I'm so stuck. I had a big house and look where I'm at. I got to get out of here. So she went back to York and she found another house in another alley in York. It's all right, but we were happy because you know what? We had our mom. We didn't need to be rich. We didn't have to have a lot. We had died. That was enough for us. So I probably didn't answer your question, but that's why we came back to York. That's why York is always in my head because it has so many memories. I had lots of memories of my sisters growing up as teens, having fun, hanging out. It's memories. But I knew I had to get out of there because as many times I came back, I said, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to be stuck. I got to get out of here. Aaron, I'm out of here. I just had to figure out how I was going to do it. I kind of blackmailed him. But anyways, that's why I kept coming back. There's memories there now. I like going to New York. I go a lot. My sister, my nieces, my nephews. I go a lot. Yeah, memories.
Thank you. Caroline, we have a map, an old map that shows Codorus Street. Could we put that up there? And Sandra, I'd love to hear your thoughts and just kind of describe the lay of the land for us there. We'll get to see 480 Codorus Street here.
Okay, let me get close. I don't got glasses on. Codorus, I think I'm 48, 480s over here. You would come out, like, our house was the second house from the end, right there. And then we used to could walk out to Green Street, but or take a left, we're on Green Street. And we went up Green Street and cross College Avenue, right in the corner, there was a store there. We were allowed to go there to go to that store. I don't remember the name of that store. There was a store there. And back then we were allowed to buy our cents back. My dad used to go up there with send money up there. He used to smoke Camels to get cigarettes, and we go up there to buy cigarettes for other grown-ups on the street who our mom knew, can you go buy cigarettes? You get ice cream cone or something for doing it. So it was nice going up there and walking to the store. Then we went down the other way, Codorus Street, we go over to Penn Street, down there where the Martin Luther King Park is now, all the way down at that end. So we were allowed to walk down there because we didn't really have to cross the street because Codorus Street was like, what, 3 blocks? It's 3 blocks straight all the way down. So you didn't have to cross the street to go up to Penn Street. But you had to cross the street when I was mentioned earlier to cross the street to go to Mary's Sub Bar, you know, and I remember like sandwiches and stuff were so cheap. And I'm pretty sure that was the name of the sub bar. And then we could just go up and down that street, but we couldn't like go past. Our church was right in here somewhere, right in the middle where you had the Codorus Street word. There was a church on the other side, Church of God in Christ. Everybody went to church. All the Black kids went to church. Their parents went to church. You know, that was how they got rid of us. And there was like special occasions and things. Everybody was in church. So we could walk down to that street only if our mom is kind of like that. If she couldn't come on her porch and see me around this curve, I walked too far. Unless she knew, she told me I could go there. Because we had friends across the street, on the other side of Codorus Street, you know, my mom's neighbors. Everybody knew everybody in Codorus Street. That's another thing that was nice back then. The kids don't have now. Nowadays, parents can't talk to other parents' kids or correct them. You just can't do it. But back then, on all of our corners, somebody's mom was always on the porch. So all the kids were outside always playing. Somebody's mom was on the porch. So we had social media, but that was the social media we had. Before you got back to your house, if you did something bad, your mom already knew it. Had a phone, but even if she didn't have a phone, trust me, your mom already knew what was going on. And then we had also on those streets, like we had a street light down here in the middle, street light up here, the big street lights. If you're as old as I am, you know those street lights were everywhere. But if that street light came on at night and you're not home, you're late. It's that simple. You're late. You had to be in your you need to hear her voice. You need to be home. One thing I liked about Codorus Street too, they used to come in the summertime, the fruit wagons from Baltimore. They used to come with their horse and their buggy and the fruit wagon, have all kinds of fruit and vegetables, selling watermelons and you name it, they were selling it. And if my mom had money, she would go out there, she's looking for something in particular. And I used to like when she would always allow us to get a watermelon, because that wasn't something we did all the time. And for the life of me, which I can't do, and maybe you can, I can't go to the store and knock on a watermelon and say it's a good one. I don't know how people do that. I can't do that. I'm going to pick anything. I don't know what it's going to be like. But my mom could go there and knock on that watermelon. People do, older people do. And he would cut that plug out so she could taste it and know it's really sweet and get that watermelon. I can't go to the grocery store and tell them watermelon is good or not. I can't. So I just pray that it's good if I get it. But Codorus Street was good because we had neighbors and everybody knew everybody. I mean, we jump rope in the street. We played hopscotch. Oh my God. It was just so much fun. Office, if you know, we weren't supposed to be playing that, but we played that. Y'all have to look that one up if you don't know what that one is. But it was nice just growing up on Codorus Street the time we had. Now, my father was around. It wasn't always good memories, you know. But because my mother gave us so many good memories, her good ones outweigh his bad ones. So that's why I like going there. That's why I like telling my kids the stories about Codorus Street. And my kids know that my dad was abusive. I told them when they were young, and they kind of knew. They didn't know every little thing, but they knew. So that was the reason why I wanted to write the book. I wanted them to know how I grew up, how my sisters and my brother grew up, what life was like for us then. It's not like now. We didn't have to worry about going to school and worry about your kids getting shot with a gun, getting killed in school, or getting killed anywhere. We're children safe anywhere.
Sandra, when the family left in June of 1959, when you returned back to York, Codorus Street was gone.
Yeah, pretty much I think it's
Urban
gone.
renewal, all kinds of explanations, but you've never quite understood why it was gone.
I don't know why. How about you, Jim? Can he hear me?
Did you ask me?
Jim, how about you? Do you know when Codorus Street left?
Yeah, it was about his late 1950s, and it was seen as urban renewal. And that whole Codorus Street area was redlined back in the 1930s, which meant even in those days it was not in good shape, and that prohibited any type of investment in it. So so there wasn't any investment in it from 1930s to the 1960, 30 years, and probably little investment before then. But the federal government through Redline made sure there wasn't any investment in there. So I think it was viewed by the kind of the power structure as blighted. And that was short-sighted, obviously, because based on what you're saying and what Jeff Kirkland, who also lived there, has said, that there was still community, and that they disrupted a community that they could never replace. But it's basically urban renewal.
Right.
To that point, 64 years or so later, that community still exists, Miss Sandra. And it exists through your books. It exists through your the reunions of the Codorus Street families, and through the stories that you share with us. So they weren't successful in getting rid of Codorus Street. It's still alive and well.
Yes, because they can't take the memories from us. They can't take those. Yeah.
Throughout the entire book, you you detail so many trials and tribulations, but yet every time I felt like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the time where she's defeated, you came out optimistic. You came out with strength, and in fact, you even you quote Maya Angelou, one of my favorite poets. But you say, I understand why the cage bird sings. You quote her. Where did this optimism come from? Where did you learn this abundance that you talked about earlier?
Yeah. What that means to me is like, it's like when I'm going through things, I don't have words for you or anybody else. But that doesn't mean I'm not thinking. I'm singing in here because I'm planning. Just because you think you got me, you don't got me. So a lot of times I've been through things, even just racial things, that they think they got me, but I'm thinking. So I'm singing in that cage because I'm getting my plan, figuring out how I'm going to come out on top of this. And there's been many times where I thought, there's no way I can get out of this, there's no way I can get out, there's no way I can change this, nothing I can do about this. And then something is the funniest thing. I tell people this, when things are really bad for me and I'm quiet, but I'm talking. But for some reason, when I go to sleep at night, if I don't know what I'm going to do, what that problem is, when I go to sleep at night, when I wake up, God has already told me what to do. A lot of people say they don't believe in God, but you know what? You have to believe in something. And I believe that when I go to sleep at night, He's talking to me. Sometimes I'll wake up and I can't think because I can't get through a problem. I just can't get through it, Walk around, get up, drink hot chocolate. That's worse, caffeine. Can't do nothing, get it back, go to sleep the next day and wake up. I got it. I know what I'm going to do. And sometimes it might not be the right solution, but I got it. I'm going to do it. If it doesn't work, I'm going to try the next thing. But for some, I don't know. It's funny how I've always been like that. And I'll tell people that it's just something in me that when I go to sleep, I wake up, it's fixed. I know it probably sounds crazy, but for me personally, when I go to sleep with it on my heart, when I wake up, I got it. That's what I say about it. I'm caged and I'm thinking because I know what I'm going to do next. So that's what I meant by that. It's my thinking time. I become my own think tank. It's my thinking time to figure out what I'm going to do. So that's how I relate that to that.
There are different paginations. There are two different printings of this book. In the book that I referenced, it's chapter 22, page 136. You tell the story of your wallet being stolen out of your locker at work.
In Philadelphia.
And it's returned to you, but the $40 in cash is not there. And this is what you said. You said, I believe that whoever took it was really in need because they cared enough to mail my wallet back to me, even though they didn't send you your $40. I'm not sure.
I was working then in Philadelphia and holding my own because I told you I was getting so. And I actually bought a house there. It's in the book here somewhere too. But I felt like it was somebody I worked with because it was in the locker room that I got taken. So I knew it was somebody I worked with, maybe a secretary or housekeeping somebody. And I figured I was just so happy because I was going to have to go get a new driver's license, a state ID and all that stuff. And I was just so happy. My work ID, everything was there. So I got this packet in the mail. My house said, I didn't order anything. My name and everything. Opened it. Oh my God, it's my wallet, my purse, big old purse. So I was really happy. So again, that's those vibes, talking to somebody more and bigger than me saying, oh my God, I really need that back. I wish I would just get that back. And then I got it back. So
I want to just follow up on one other little vignette. On page 120, you discuss your bout with uterine cancer.
Yes.
And you said, this was one of the many blessings for me from God.
Yes.
I've never heard cancer described as one of the many blessings from God.
Yeah, many blessings that He didn't let it take me out. Many blessings that He gave me a wake-up call. Anything's possible. And I was young then. And when the doctor was talking to my mom, because my mom was with me, and he was telling my mom, Miss Dorothy, I think she's gonna be okay. I got this thing called a colonization, where they thought they got all the cancer cells out and everything had to go back a couple times, and then everything was gone and never came back again. That was, I mean, blessing. Like he gave me a wake-up call, like this could happen to you, Sandra, but I'm not gonna let it. So don't you waste this. Don't waste this. You understand what I'm saying? I'm saying, do not waste this life, because this could have went a whole different way. It didn't have to go that way. And I was young and nervous about that. I'm like, cancer, what? You know, and I just prayed, it's gonna be okay. You know, and then I have to think like that. I mean, my mom was that spiritual woman, like everything's gonna be okay. You know, she believed that, and I believed in her. I believed in God. So I said that was a many blessings, because it could have been something totally different. He gave me hope. Just because you're young and feeling good don't mean you have to be here. Don't mess this up. So that's what I meant by that. I didn't have to be here. It could have been a whole different way. And then my children were all babies. Who would have been taking care of them? My mom would have been stuck trying to raise babies. So it was a good thing. Yes, absolutely. Mhm.
Folks, as we're heading into about our last 20 minutes, if you have questions, please feel free to put those in the chat, and we will try to get to those for you.
Can I ask you, can I interject?
Sure.
Back when we were talking abundance, I just have this incident I want to tell you about. It's in one of my books. I don't know where it is. But I was in Baltimore. You know, I talk about my mother in Baltimore. But I was in Baltimore, and me and my god sister, and we went to a mall. I think it was called Mondawmin Mall in Baltimore a long time ago. Excuse me. And I saw a dining room set that I thought was just absolutely gorgeous. All glass and chrome. Something I never thought I could ever own, you know. It was like $2,000, $2,000 something dollars, right? And I don't have that kind of money like that. I'm like, what? So I go to the store, I'm looking and looking, and the salesman comes over. He said, "Can I help you?" I said, "I really like this dining room set. Do you have layaway?" He said, "Sure, we have layaway, you know. And how much time could I get to get it out?" I said, "Well, we can talk about that." He said, "You want to do layaway?" I said, "Yeah, can I?" So he gets out the paperwork. Don't laugh. He gets out the paperwork and we're filling out the paper and everything. "Well, how much do you want to put down?" I said, $10. He's crazy. My sister laughed so hard. She said, "Man, $10, miss?" I said, "Yeah, you said you have layaway. You didn't say how much. You said $10. I want to put $10 down." So he goes back to the desk. I guess he's talking to whoever's in charge of sales at the desk and everything. And he comes back to the desk and they fill out my paper and I give him my $10. I give him my receipt. I prayed about that because no way in the world I had no $2,000 to get that dining room set. So it took me like, I think it's like 6 months or so, because I was going to school. Job getting from my husband because he was overseas in Korea at the time. When I walked in and paid that last payment, that guy's face was like, "Oh, well, when do you want this delivered, Miss Stockton?" I said, $10 down. He didn't think I could do it, but that's the thing I'm saying, believing in. I didn't know where in the hell I was getting $2,000 from. My mom didn't have it. I knew that. My husband was in Korea. But I worked so hard to pay that thing off, and I got it. And I had it for years. I couldn't, when they delivered it to Andrews Air Force Base to my house, I was like so excited. It was just, everybody in the whole block was talking about it. They thought I was rich. You know, I did that $10 down, did that layaway, and got it. So I'm just saying the things I say, believe in yourself and what you can do and what you can get. I had it for so many years. I eventually gave it to one of my sisters anyways, because I was tired of it then. But it was the story I'm telling you about how people just doubt themselves. You don't think you can do it because you don't have this. Well, you might not have it today, but you might have that 2,000 in 6 months. Let's see how we can work this out. So I want to throw that in there. Like, I've done so many things a lot. I just fix my mind to do it, and then I just do it. So I got that dining room set. Loved it. Everybody loved it. Had a good story.
Sandra, we do have some questions popping in from
Okay.
our visitors with us today, and
Sure.
we haven't even gotten into some of the heart-wrenching stories in your book, but you've written 3 volumes.
Right.
There is not an ounce of self-pity. There's not an ounce of, I was owed better, this should have happened to me. how have you been able to do that? How have you been able to see things, the bright side of every situation here?
I think it's because of my children. My children don't want to do without me. I don't want to leave them behind. I don't want them to hurt. So I have to just figure things out. I have to just keep trying. I mean, I could just give up and be depressed and have anxiety. When my son was murdered, when my mom and sister died in the fire, I went through changes, pills, pills, pills. But I kept pulling myself up, doing what I had to do. I had to see a psychiatrist, I did that, therapist, I did whatever I needed to do to survive, you know. And I have strong, strong daughters. I have two very strong daughters. They won't let me fall, you know. Things don't look right, you know. They're there to hang out with me. Mom, let's do this, let's do that. I'll go with you. And my husband's just awesome. He's always there for me. And I just have people just lifting me up. Because so many times I felt like I can't do this, but I would go to sleep at night and pray about it and wake up. I gotta fight. I have to fight. I have to do this. And I just kept on doing it. And then when my mother was alive, I had her to lean on. But when I didn't have her to lean on no more, things got harder because I would call her all the time. She'd always have an ear. And she always had the right words. And sometimes my mother didn't have no words. I'd drive to York from Maryland to see her and tell her what's going on. And she'd just be listening. She'd get us some coffee, some hot chocolate. She made some cake or something. We when she was left, it was like devastating when she died in that fire with my sisters. Both of them had the same name. It was like the worst. But my two daughters are strong. They hurt just as much as I hurt. They lost their grandmother and their aunt. But when we all three get together, we got our circle there that we're strong together. My daughters always look out for me, you know. My baby daughter got me an iPhone because she was mad when she didn't know where I was. So she comes and takes my phone and gives me an iPhone and says, from now I'm going to know where you and father are. She calls him father, when you and father are, because y'all just be going all over the place. We know how to drive. We can still think for ourselves. You know, but she got the phone. I was so stressed out trying to figure out how to use it, but now I'm a lot better. But I'm just thinking how they think about us. It's almost sometimes I think I got two moms. There they are, talking to each other and trying to convince me to do this or do that, or don't do this or don't do that. So I think I get through those things. That I have people who are there for me. My grown children are there for me. My husband's there for me. Even though we see each other every day, we're still pretty tight. You know, we're saying my baby sister Benita in York, we're super tight. When she was young, I'm 5 years older than her. She was my mom's baby girl. So she was always with me everywhere I went. So we're like that now, even though she's there and I'm here, we talk all the time. So I have people to lift me up. And I always try to stay focused and strong to lift them up when they're having a bad time. Something's going on in their life, I call them. So I just keep on looking forward to something better. I look forward to something better. I look forward now to great grands coming along and watching them and knowing that my DNA is going to walk this earth for a long time. I'm very happy when great grands are coming along. So I just always have something to look forward to. So now I look forward to them growing up. So it's always something. So, and I keep pressing, because if I give up and get depressed and cry and get just caught up, then my kids don't have me. Then where's their strength? Like, it's the threefold. We all do this together. So I just keep on trying. I've been into five. I'm here. I can't. But then I go to sleep at night, like I told you, and I wake up and say, I can do this. So yeah, I have a lot to look forward to. I mean, I try to live every day to the fullest. Sometimes I'm really tired and I think that, oh, maybe my back hurts or my leg hurts because I have a lot of problems with that. But something makes me just get up and push. I don't care if I can walk to the front porch. I'm going to sit outside and get sunshine then. But I just keep on making myself try all the time. And I'm going to do that until God says it's over. Until God says it's over, it's not over. It's not over. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or says, even doctors. They can say you have so much time to live. Like they gave my son 3 months to live with his cancer when he got cancer a couple of years ago. I went to York to see him and was in that hospital and sat with him through chemo and everything and said, this is not over. He is not God. We're going to be right here and we're going to fight, and you have to fight. Because if you're not fighting and I'm fighting, we can't win. He's cancer free today. But I'm just saying, those are things you have to help yourself stay strong for your kids and for yourself. You can't just quit. So many people I see you just quit. Crying and is not going to help you, and quitting is not going to help you because you just keep on lower. So you have to just not give up. You can't give up.
You talk about looking forward, and I have to take us to the very end of the book, because you left us with a cliffhanger at the end of the book here. You end with a conversation that you and Aaron are having, and you're talking about finding a husband for yourself and a father for your children. And your
Yes.
last words to Aaron were, "I will wait for your call." And you conclude the book, then I'm going to read this paragraph. You said, "At that point, I knew as time went on and I grew, developed, and changed daily, that everything and everyone in my circle of life would have to respond accordingly." For Aaron's response, but not for too long. I had to continue to thrive positively, however that may have been with him or my next knight in shining armor. I sure hoped that that phone would ring and I would hear the right answer from the other side. What were you thinking at that time? I'll wait for your call, you say.
Basically, I was hoping I didn't scare him because I was being so aggressive, because I was just aggressive. And I was hoping that I didn't scare him off. He's like, forget her. She's trying to make me marry her, you know. I also said there too that I wanted him to know that I'm still looking. I wanted him to know I'm still looking. He said, what does that mean? I said, you're a man. What do you think? Okay, you got that, right? You understood that, right? So he knew. So I had that little tidbit on there too. So them couple of days when he called me back, I guess now I'm thinking, he's like, when do you want to get married? I said, no, I don't want to marry you because now I'm making you marry me. Now you don't really want to marry me. It was just crazy. So I was thinking, what if I scared him off? And he said, forget her. But I didn't scare him off. He called.
Not yet. He's still there.
Yeah.
Now, Miss Sandra, we did not get into the other two books, but you've gone on from the end of that first book and have had some amazing accomplishments, both yourself professionally and with your family. Your children have flourished. Your family has flourished. There's a comment here. We're wondering if you might be the highest ranking military woman from York County in the history of York County. Do you know if that's accurate?
I don't know, but somebody told me that. I said, wow, that's awesome. I don't know if that's accurate. Somebody told me that years ago, and I'm like, what? But I thought it was really nice. So I don't know if it's accurate, but it's nice. My dad was in the Army. You know, my brother went in the Marines. He didn't stay in, but he went in the Marines, and none of my other sisters went in the military. So going to the military for me was just for my husband's sake, basically, because he said we needed more money. I did that, enlisted. I did that to help out. So yeah.
So as a lieutenant colonel, very impressive. You've left us at least 3 volumes and probably more to come.
Oh no, I'm done. I'm done.
You're done?
I'm done. I'm done.
Are you working on other books at this point?
Nope, I'm done. What I want to do now, what I would like to do now is do speeches.
Okay.
A spokesperson. I'd like to do that. Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the book outside of this trilogy, There Is Always Room for One More? Can you talk to us a little bit about,
Sure.
just give us a kind of a brief overview of that?
Sure. That book came about because my husband and I did foster care for over 100 children in DC, Maryland, Virginia area, right, for 26 years. And one of he married a young lady here in Maryland, and she already had a kid, and they had 2 more that he had with her. And they decided that they didn't want to live in Maryland no more because his sister married a soldier in North Carolina, and they wanted to follow her. So she went first, the wife and the kids. And when Jonathan was going, he had his little truck with all their stuff tied on top and everything. And the truck caught on fire. And everything they had in that truck, they lost. And he called me. I'm like, oh my God, on the road. And then I did a GoFundMe I set up a GoFundMe to get money to help them out, right? And we did really well for them down to kind of get furniture, get a place, and all the other stuff. So when I did the GoFundMe, News Channel 7 called me about 2 days in from that GoFundMe thing and said she saw my GoFundMe, saw about my foster kid, and she wanted to know if she could come talk to me. And she wanted to talk to me the next day. And I said, yeah, sure, you know. So she came and then she started just talking to me about my story. We talked about the kids and everything we did. In my basement, I have pictures of my foster kids all over and story. And the next day, it hit the news on News Channel 7. Next thing I know, next day later, it was viral. And we were getting calls from radio stations everywhere, like Canada. I mean, Europe, everywhere. I could not believe that story went there. I guess they put on the news, it goes everywhere. All the syndicated channels and everything. So I told my husband, I said, you know what? We need to write a book. Let's just do something quick about foster parenting. So we contacted quite a few of our foster children to see if we could write about the story in our book, and they gave us permission, you know, some of them. And we did the book in like 90 days. In between me writing my book, it got me tied up. What the book did though is it's really a tool, really skinny book on Amazon for like 20 bucks. It's a tool. And we tell people all the definitions they need to know, like foster parenting, you know, guardianship, adoption, anything you can think of has to do with foster care. We made all the definitions in the beginning. And then we started doing stories that something happened to one kid. And one of the stories I put in there was about our first foster daughter. She was Asian. And she was with us for a while and she left. And we didn't see her hear from her for like 20-something years or so. And she found me on Facebook and she inboxes me. She says, hello, are you the Sandra married to Aaron Stockton who lived in Upper Marlboro, Maryland? So I go back and say, yes, that's me. Who are you? And she goes, I'm Michelle West, Mom. Because that's not the name that was on her thing. I said, that's not the name. She said, I'm married. I said, where are you? I'm in Germany. She said, and I'm married to soldiers. She's like, Dad, I told you. I couldn't believe it. So she contacted us. And when she came back stateside, she came to Maryland to see us. I saw her twin. She has 3 daughters. And it was just, I hadn't seen her for like 30 years. And all of a sudden, here she is, married to a soldier, got her kids. And it was just an amazing story. So because of social media, so many of our kids have contacted us. Many. And when our story went viral, so many came out of the woodwork. So we're in contact with a lot of them. So we did that book in 90 days. We put a lot of different stories in there. I mean, we had one kid that committed suicide. That was, you know, that thing happened too, you know, and different things you go through as a foster parent, and telling people that we need more foster parents. And sometimes you don't have to be a foster parent. You could just be a substitute. You could just get somebody a break for the weekend. Take my child for overnight so they can get a break, go out for lunch or something. So I talk about that, and I usually put out things about how you can help in fostering kids, because these kids now are just lost, you know. And this is me personally, I think social media has destroyed a lot of our kids. And I think a lot of parents put their kids on social media because you're supposed to be 13. But there's a lot of kids in there that are no way in the world. They're 13. I know some of them. They don't understand that their children are seeing all this grown up talk, all these things. What are they doing within their head that they even understand it? So I thought our book was just a tool to help them understand what it was about and how they could help. So that's what made us do it when that story went viral. Like, you know, even somebody from Tyler Perry's show called us. I'm like, whoa, you know. People were really interested. And I said, you know what? We need more foster parents. So we wrote no, we're tired. We're done that. And I hope I never have to get back into that. And even for us being foster parents, both of our daughters became foster parents. And our oldest daughter adopted 2 of her foster daughters. They were sisters. She adopted one first, and a couple of years later, she adopted the other one because she only had one child. So she became an adoptive foster parent mother. And she's doing good. And our youngest daughter is bilingual in Spanish. When we were stationed in New Mexico, she was in 1st grade and learning Spanish, and it never left her. She took it every year, everywhere, and she's really great. You meet her, you think she's Spanish. She is not. But she's good, you know. So she was in foster parent doing the bilingual kids, the kids coming across the border, illegal and not legal. And they are in these places, the United States have them. They put those kids in foster homes, you know. And she got tagged because she's bilingual. So she's had quite a few Spanish-speaking children, you know, and I was her backup with a translator in my hand on my smartphone when I took them for appointments. I can't speak any of that, but she was really good. So both of my daughters got into foster You know, and I'm really, so we kind of hooked up together and had a family affair with foster kids, and we looked out for each other's kids, you know, and did that for years, you know. So I just think that there's more people out there who could probably help if they really understand what foster parenting was all about. Because a lot of people say, people think, we got one text when somebody said, oh, you had all those kids, you just got in for the money. If they only knew, and I write in the book, you get no money. You better have some money and have a job if you want to do a good job with these kids and teach them things and show them things. You know, you have to do that. You know, so that's how we got into foster parenting, you know. Yeah, that's how we did. And another thing I did, getting off that foster parent with our grandkids, you know, I had an insurance man, I talked to him one time saying, I want to do something for my kids. I don't know what I could do. They got kids now. How can I help them? There's too many of them. I don't have a lot of money. He said, give your grandkids a college mind. He told me this a long time ago. I said, what do you mean? Take them to college campuses, programs on college, you know, campuses. So what we did for all our grandsons, they were all stair steppers. We started the two oldest ones first, and every year somebody's older, we tagged them on till all 6 of them were in football camps. So we're all me and my husband paying for them. Now we got college graduates. I mean, you just put them there and let them see college. It was just taking them to the campuses. You know, like one of our grandsons works for NFLA. He's doing great. You know, one of our kids down here doing rebuilding homes and restoring them, everything. They're all doing something different, but they've all seen things. They got college degrees. So you just had, and they got college from what's the college in I can't think of it now. Towson, one of them, you know. Different schools. But I think that helped them just going to those campuses to play football and seeing them big buildings, like, wow, this is neat. I think sometimes people think that you have to have a lot of money for your kids, but you just have to show them, put them in the right places where they can see it. If they can see it, they can dream it. They have to see it enough. You know, if you never take them to a play, how do they know what a play is supposed to be like? Scrap up the money and take them to see a play, you know? Get a couple of dollars in your pocket, take them, teach them roller skating, ice skating, swimming, anything. But you got to show them there's more than what's inside your house and on social media. That's not good. But yeah.
Miss Sandra, thank you very much for spending an hour with us tonight. I know
Absolutely.
for me, this was time well spent.
Thank
Your
you.
your story is powerful. Your message is powerful. I look forward to finding you out there on the speaking trail. I know you'll be successful.
Mm,
If you're anything like you were tonight, you will be successful. I'm
Thank
sure of
you.
that.
I'm going to try
Caroline,
hard.
I'll let you wrap us up, please.
So thank you again, Miss Sandra, for joining us. I would say for those who attended this evening, thank you for joining us as well. Also, we have a previous discussion with Miss Sandra, actually from last March, that I'll also give you all access to, sharing some of her other stories from her first book, so you can get a fuller picture of her life experience and her inspiration to us all. So thank you again, Miss Sandra, for joining us, and we hope to see you out in this great wide world.
I'll try. But if anybody wants to continue talking to me, go to my website. I have an email. I'll talk with you. And my website is my name, small letters, SandraKearse-Stockton.com. I'll talk to anybody. No problem. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, you're quite welcome. And this concludes our program for the evening. We hope you have a great rest of your week.